The significance of this event is quite critical. We are at a juncture where we've got a security cluster that is severely under-resourced from a capability perspective. On the other hand, we have a South African defense and security industry broadly that is severely underutilized in as far as those capabilities are concerned on the local level. So fortunately, within the South African legislation, there is law that allows the public and the private sector to talk together and bring in private capital to capacitate the state in areas where there are weaknesses. As a South African defense industry, our primary client should and will always be the South African government. So whether you are talking South African Police or the South African National Defence Force or now the Border Management Agency, that should remain our priority. The technology that we develop, first and foremost, is for utilization at home more than for exports. But for reasons that everyone is aware of, the declining of the defense and security budgets, that has forced our industry to pivot externally. With the challenges that we are facing now as a country, I mean, the illegal mining, the crime, the sabotage of economic infrastructure, you need our government to be properly capacitated so that they can deal with these challenges that we are facing.
I think the issue of triple Ps is quite complex, and not just for South Africa, but I think for the world, over. In the defense sector, it becomes even more complex because of the sensitivity nature of the work that we do. But I think the key thing that needs to happen, and I think that, in my view, should be the first step, is having that policy alignment or policy drive that will enable PPPs, because I think everything starts at the top, right?
The market in South Africa for defense material is in the decline, and it's been in decline for the last number of years. And that provides a problem for the industry on the one side, but also for government to obtain what it requires. And therefore, I think government has to have a very clear re-look at the urgency of the matter in terms of how, through private sector engagement, actually production can be enhanced in South Africa. If we have to meet our employment targets, we have to grow the economy at 3%, at least. And that means also for the defense sector the same. So time is of the essence. There is an urgency. From my experience over the last 5 years, of what we are doing as far as public-private growth initiative is concerned, PPGI, is that where there is a willingness and a preparedness to sit together around the same table and find the answers, then we can go forward.
GTEC is a government technical advisory center which was established by the National Treasury to provide technical assistance to government institutions. So PPP is one of the units that were then established under GTEC to provide the transaction advisory services. You will find that some institutions will come at the very late stage where they want to do this thing as of tomorrow. But then in terms of the planning and how the process is structured, it might not be possible for you to then say, today we are conceptualizing and then in the next few months we are implementing. It can't be like that, because remember what you are also doing, you are then indebting the state. So we need to understand exactly how much the state liability or the contingent liability that you are bringing to the state is going to be. So now such decisions are not going to be taken in just few months.
Economic impact, the multiplier, these are really, really important.
Link these PPPs to your strategy. What's the big picture? What's your vision? Where do you want to be in 20 or 30 years' time? And then say, where can the private sector come in? So yes, you're right. It is a change in the way of thinking and changing the narrative. It's not about the regulations and the time and the hassle and what have you. It's about saying vision, strategy, implementation, and capacity. How do we get the teams together to deliver this? I think every sector is going to have its complexities. I would fully acknowledge the fact that there's a large national security element or component in PPPs, but I tried to illustrate in the health sector, for example, around that vaccine security issue. It's not unique that the defense sector has these issues, and it's also not a reason not to do PPPs. It's a reason that you have to be quite careful in making sure that those national interests aren't compromised and taking them into account. Well, I'm so encouraged by this conference, and the level of discussion. What I heard this morning shows that there's a large awareness of what needs to be done. I would say that the next steps are probably around making sure that there's sound policies in place. The critical element of getting the right people, resuscitating a task team, but getting dedicated resources, the smartest people in the defense sector to work together and then try and formulate or develop a list of projects that have potential for PPPs. Then go to Treasury and say, help us with this. That would be my suggestion.
I think from the defense side and study members itself, we are ready. We have been hungry for new innovations and new projects, branching out our capabilities and expanding our resources in terms of new engineers and new technological innovations being pushed into the defense industry. Majority of our products are exported to other countries, not even on this continent necessarily. And I think one thing that we can pride ourselves in as a company, as Moco itself, is the fact that we have strived for new technological innovations, pushing the boundaries of what is physically capable with the resources, the limited resources that we have available in this country, and developing new products regardless of government's cooperation or the requirements therefrom. I think the requirement from a PPP solution for the government and what they could benefit from it is tremendous. I think that Rheinmetall Denel Munitions is a very good demonstration of how a public and private entity can combine forces, develop quality products, and then being used for export markets around the world, which then in essence also generates revenue for the state itself.
We are a small South African defense company. We're 100% black-owned private technology company. And we specialize in enabled awareness, command and control, and constructive simulation. We have identified this event as one event that we want to be involved with, and that's why we're sponsoring it. We are a small company and we need exposure like this to grow ourselves in the internal market as well as the external market, the export market. And we believe in partnerships with our end users, and in this case the Department of Defense, inter alia the government.
We were approached by Mr. Sandile Ndlovu of AMD and asked if Defence would be willing to partner with them to produce this event and to make it a reality and make it happen for the defence industry. We've had quite a broad spectrum of speakers from Treasury to Gautrain and as well as Defence. And I think it's brought a focus and a reality on PPP as a way of doing things and to facilitate projects that otherwise maybe wouldn't happen or take too long to happen. So I think it's met expectations, and I think it's got a lot of people talking. And my hope is that this will be a catalyst for future PPP deals going forward.